All right, this is going to be fun for those of us who like to live dangerously. This is Journey to Heaven by St Tikhon of Zadonsk, Part 4, Chapter 3, on the duty of husbands and wives in marriage. I'm going to open this with a disclaimer, and that is that I'm no better than anybody else, and I suffer with pride and not... I don't like to be bossed around too much any more than anybody else does. Excuse me, I got a cold and my lungs are spasming. I'm sorry. So I know there's a lot of feminists that really don't like the Christian perspective on marriage and men being the head of the household, and they think that masculinity is toxic in all forms, which is not true. And frankly, I think some feminists are coming to realize that they've gotten themselves into a corner where they're getting the worst of both worlds. And they've made it so that they're expected to be as strong as a man, and they're not getting the respect and dignity of a lady, a woman. There's pros and cons and gives and takes for both roles, and so I just wanted to kind of say that before I started this chapter, because St. Tikhon's going to address this in not the same way I just did, but he's going to basically tell us what men and women are supposed to do in marriage. And, feminists don't typically like this sort of thing. So, all right, that being said, let's move on. 1, both have to come to the marriage by agreed consent. In other words, the male and the female, when they get married, they need to do so with mutual consent, and that includes being honest. You don't trick people into marrying you. You don't force them into marrying you. It's got to be on the up and up, all the way around. If you try to force the marriage, or if you lie to get the marriage, you're kind of destroying the foundation of the relationship before it even starts. 2, those that correctly enter into the marriage are to keep it together and loving until the end of life. 3, husbands aren't to abandon the wife, nor the wife her husband. 4, virtue, and not passion, is important for both spouses. They both have to be in it for virtue, not passion, as the foundation of their love. Both of them must correct each other's faults in a gently loving way. Leaving each other for abstinence is a dangerous thing that should not be done, or else it will lead to a worse sin. So in other words, it's okay for you to agree to be abstinent or chaste for a while during a fast for God, but you're not going to, separate or leave each other for abstinence. It's just temporary, and you're still together in the same house. You're just abstaining from intimacy for a while. Doing that and not becoming a monk or joining a convent or a monastery is a dangerous thing, and that's what he's saying. If you mutually agree to go join, no convent or monastery is going to take you if you abandon your spouse. They're not going to accept that. So you can't go join a monastery or a convent unless you both mutually agree that that's what you both want to do. Otherwise, you're going to stay together. And that's basically what he's saying. All right? It's a long version of that, but that's what it was. All right, number 5. I simply said, see 1 Corinthians 7, 4 through 5. And that's probably because it's something sensitive that I think is best said by the Bible itself and not me. 6. Orthodox Christian marriage is not to be lived as the heathen do in marriage, but rather as God living in each person. 1 Corinthians 7, 5. In other words, when we're baptized, we put on Christ, and we're supposed to reflect Christ's light in our hearts to the world. So we don't enter into marriage like I thought when I was young. Marriage is not a carnival ride that you can do whatever you want and have a great time and ride all the rides for free. That's not what marriage is. I learned that the hard way, I'm ashamed to say. And yeah, so you have to be going into it with a good, proper attitude and respect for each other and God. All right, 7. Wives are not slaves, but wives are helpmates. Ephesians 5:22, Ephesians 5:33, Colossians 3:18, Psalms 132:1. Those are all the Bible references for that one. 8. When either one spouse or the other is of the opposite character, good or evil, then perpetual suffering will be for the person of good character. And in this case, patience must be applied, no matter the evil, to conquer it with patience. In other words, no matter how bad your spouse is, how irritating or annoying or hurtful, you're going to have to exercise patience and a lot of prayer and fasting in order to conquer that in your spouse and get them to be on the same page with you. Otherwise, you're just going to go on indefinitely, or it'll destroy the marriage. And either of those situations is perpetual suffering. The only way out of that is for the good person, the good spouse, to win over the one that's not so good, so that they both can live together in peace and not have regrets. All right. Number 9. Throughout history, wives have corrupted husbands. So husbands must take care not to indulge her, but rather restrain her disorderly desires. And so it is now. The same ancient serpent approaches the woman and entices her, and through the woman draws her husband into iniquitous deeds. Husband, beware, and do not perform the will and counsel of your wife in everything, lest she rule over you and lead you wherever she wills. Love her insofar as it is not contrary to God. Quote, according to the word of the apostle, let her reverence you and not you her, and let her be obedient to you and not you to her, end quote. All right, that's not to say or to negate what the Bible says about the man honoring the woman and giving his life for her, as Christ did for the church. And that's not to say that men don't ever lead women down the wrong path, because we all know that happens too. But what he is saying is there's a lot of examples in history with the scriptures and history in general where men are seduced. And they have a harder time with that sometimes, and it causes a lot of problems when the order of things gets out of whack. So I believe that's what St Tikhon was referring to there. So, all right, that concludes the touchy chapter of 3 of part 4 on the duty of husbands and wives in marriage. And for those of you feminists who were offended, I sympathize with the tendency to be rebellious. I was a preacher's kid, so I know what that's like. And I also know from experience that it's a lot of trouble. It's just not worth, really, to be honest with you. And I'm much happier when I'm obedient to good things. It's been my experience that being rebellious most of the time is more harm than good, and more trouble than it's worth. And it's not just women that have to be obedient, men do too. So, all right, with that said, pray for me, a sinner. God bless. Over and out.